Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Clarissa, and I'm representing the Research in Germany initiative executed by the German Academic Exchange Service and funded by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, and will be today's moderator. In the background, my colleague Inji Nafi will be assisting with the Q&A box moderation and technical support. We are very excited and so grateful for everyone being part of today's session. Today is the second episode of our event series Meet Your Future You, and our research shows that one of the most effective ways to share information is through individuals who have already navigated this journey and can provide first-hand insights into both the advantages and challenges from an international perspective. Today's session focuses on women in science as we strive to actively promote change, ensuring that men and women are treated equally in academia. This format will continue to evolve based on your preferences, and we plan to organize more topic and region focused online events. Therefore, your feedback at the end of today's session will be highly valuable and appreciated. Also, if you could just quickly answer the first two survey questions, that would be great. That way we know who we are talking to. We are very fortunate to have experienced female scholars who have successfully made their journeys and established themselves in their home country and or in Germany. But before we get to meet them and to ensure a smooth interactive session, I'd like to familiarize you with the key features of Microsoft Teams webinars. Here is a brief overview. If you have a question during the presentation, please do not use the raise hand feature. Please only use this feature at the end during our Q&A session. For questions that you would like to address during the dedicated Q&A session at the end, please use the Q&A box only. The chat box is used to be only for technical issues throughout the webinar. You can use reactions to engage with the presentation without interrupting at any time. As mentioned and agreed upon during the registration process, we are recording the event. The recording will be accessible on our website to all participants after the session. Last but not least, please ensure your microphones are muted when you're not speaking to avoid background noise. Once again, thank you for your participation, and I'm very much looking forward to an interesting session. The time is short, so let's make the best of it. We will start with a presentation from Dr. Claudia Seldin, followed by two interviews with Dr. Natacha Aivodji and Aylin de Moral Morales. Afterwards, we will have sufficient time for your individual questions to the speakers. It is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Claudia Seldin, originally from Brazil, today conducting research at the Center for Metropolitan Studies, Technische Universität Berlin. Claudia, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Clarissa. Thank you to the organizers, to Research in Germany and the DAD for this wonderful invitation and opportunity. I think I will start sharing my screen now. Just 1 second. Okay. So can you see my presentation, Clarissa? I cannot see you, so I would appreciate some audio feedback.
I can see the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So hello, everybody. I can already see the names of some female colleagues and even students participating. I'm really happy about that. So a special hello to all of you. As Clarissa previously said, my name is Claudia Seldin. I'm from Brazil. And my disciplines are urban studies, urban planning, and urban history. I am currently a senior researcher and lecturer at the Center for Metropolitan Studies of the TU Berlin, and also a guest lecturer at the urban management program of the same university. And I'm also a member of the board of the Apoena network of Brazilian scientists in Germany. And today the idea is that I will share a little bit of my background with a focus on funding to you, and then talk about the benefits and the challenges of living and doing research in Germany from my own experiences. And then I'm planning to tell you a little bit about the lessons that I've learned along the way, and hopefully share some tips that I have for you from both a personal and a professional perspective. So just to get started, I wanted to show you a little bit of my background. I have a bachelor's in architecture and urban studies, or urbanism as we call it in Brazil, from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, a master's and a PhD in urban studies from the same university. And both of those degrees were pursued with research stays in Germany at the Bauhaus Universität in Weimar. My first contact with Germany came through my master's program when I was the recipient of a DAD fellowship. And later I came back to do a part of my PhD here. I have one postdoc in Brazil and one postdoc at the university where I am now, which opened some doors for my current position. And I'm currently what we call a wissenschaftliche Mitarbeiterin at my institution, which would be the equivalent of a research associate. And if you pay attention here, I've highlighted the funding that I've had throughout my career from Brazil and Germany. So the Brazilian funding is in green, the German funding is in red. And I wanted to just very quickly point to some pros and cons of these different types of different countries and the different types of funding that exist. But firstly, highlighting that I think one of the things that helped me a lot was the diversity in funding throughout my career. So I had a lot of institutions backing up my work, and that is good for our CVs. In Brazil, a lot of the funding comes from the government, and that's a pro. We have a very strong history of state support to research in all of the different levels, from your bachelor's to your postdocs, and when you are a professor doing research. But unfortunately, the pay is low and the infrastructure, even the physical infrastructure, is not very good. I assume this could be the situation for some of you watching in your home countries. And in red, you can see the different funding that I've had in Germany. So the DAD, the Alexander von Humboldt Stiftung, the Leibniz Institute, and even some small or short-term fundings from my own university at the TU Berlin. And the main difference here is that a lot of the funding in Germany comes from either private institutions, or they would be what we call third-party funding. And I can talk a little bit more about that in the Q&A if you're interested. And I can say that, relatively speaking, in terms of salary and the type of position that you get, it is a better paid infrastructure than what we have in Brazil. There is more diversity of funders, but at the same time, most of the funding that we get here tends to be more temporary. And because Germany is very attractive to international researchers, it's more competitive, and it does privilege what we call the hard sciences. But that is, of course, not something that is exclusive to Germany. It is a problem worldwide. So people in the social sciences have less opportunities for funding, and I think that that relates to science today. In terms of the benefits of both living and working in Germany, I would highlight that there is an attempt to look for equality and equity, more precisely for women in science, so a bit more respect if compared to other countries. One of the things that I can mention in this regard is the fact that we have fixed salaries, and so they are not individual salaries. You follow a table of how much you will get depending on the type of position, on how much experience you have. Also, in terms of quality of life, no matter if you are a single woman or if you are a woman coming to Germany with a family, you do have some benefits that don't exist in other countries. And again, I'm always comparing this to my home country of Brazil. So there are certain welfare benefits, including what we call Kindergeld, which is money that you receive if you have a child. The public education system is free, so you can enroll your kids without having to pay for their education. And in terms of if you are a single woman, I would say that the quality of life is better for transport, security, and safety in public spaces, and things like that. Moreover, Most people highlight that there is a very good work versus personal private life balance in Germany. So the way I like to exemplify this is we don't tend to answer emails during the weekends, which is something that I always had to do when I was in Brazil. You work during your work time, you rest during your leisure time, and this is very cultural. Um, Also, you have the possibility of developing research in both academia and in the industry. There is a lot of opportunity in the industry, but of course, that's still dependent. So it depends on the discipline that you follow. Germany is very international, and you have a lot of possibility of conducting research in English and working in English, especially depending on the state and the city that you are in. I'm in Berlin, so that is very easy. But I will highlight that you should do that while you learn German, and I will talk a little bit more about that later. Uh, Moreover, I would say that most German institutions are well perceived and well known internationally. So they do add a lot of value to your CV. And that comes also with good possibilities of cooperation with partners and other institutions throughout the European Union. So there are several regional funding schemes, like for instance, Horizon or Marie Curie. And this allows you to build cooperation with partners from other European countries, and that can be a real asset for your career. Uh, as I've mentioned briefly before, Germany has a wonderful funding landscape, especially for early career researchers and those who are looking to have a temporary research stay here. So, of course, you're familiar with the Research in Germany portal. But the best thing about this portal, and we usually at our Apoena network really recommend that people look into this, is because you can choose what your goal and the level of your career is to look for specific opportunities and funding opportunities and employment even options through the portal. Moreover, Germany has a great lab or university infrastructure. That was not my experience in Brazil. We had a lot of older buildings. It was a little bit problematic, but here the physical infrastructure is really good. And another thing that I wanted to highlight in terms of teaching, because I know some of you already teach and you enjoy teaching, is that especially if you're working with the graduate level, if you're teaching master students or supervising PhD candidates, you do have more freedom to teach about your own topics and your research, as opposed to what happens in other countries when you are told what to teach. So moving on to the actual challenges of doing research in Germany, I would say that the biggest one would be cultural adaptation. And of course, that would happen to migrants moving to other countries, no matter what the country is. But for me, especially, German culture is very different from Brazilian culture, so it was a challenge. And the language is definitely the biggest barrier. Yes, German is hard, but learning German is essential if you want to move forward in your career. Another thing that usually affects women, especially who do research in Germany quite heavily, is the fact that you don't have your family here with you. Even if you come with your partner, with your kids, you don't have the extended family to or your support network to give you support, especially if you have a duty of care, if you have kids. So it is double the work, and that is a common complaint amongst women here doing research and working actively. Another challenge would be the excessive bureaucracy in Germany, especially at institutions, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Of course, dealing with immigration issues and visa issues is never easy. Depending on the area or your discipline, depending on your family status, you might have to face more or less bureaucracy. And another problem is the fact that German laws regarding academia are very specific. And there are less positions or permanent positions after you complete your PhD, and there is a certain amount of time that you can be allowed to pursue to stay in these positions. But at the same time, there is now a lot of focus on hiring female staff and people from minority backgrounds, so a real incentive for equal opportunities. And of course, I would also point out that even though Germany is a very equal country and tries to be more equal, it is still quite hard to gain professional visibility in a new country, no matter what the country is, especially if you're a woman. So we sometimes have to work twice as hard, and I guess we all know this here. So I move forward to the point in my presentation when I tell you a little bit about lessons I've learned and give you some tips, and I'm happy to expand on that during the Q&A. One thing that I think is quite important is be open-minded about the cultural differences. Nothing is right or wrong. No country or culture is better than the other. If you try to keep an open mind and just realize that people have a different way of looking into things, it makes your life much easier. As I mentioned before, invest in learning the language. Mastering German does take a lot of time. It's not a language that you learn in 1 or even 2 years, but it does open a lot of doors. And I think one of the most important things is you have to build your support network here. There are many expats in Germany. There are probably expats from the region of the world where you come from. And if you build a strong support network, you will get help with your issues, your problems, your doubts. Uh, don't isolate yourself. Many of those groups are centered on foreign women, and you can easily find them online on Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms. At the same time, I would say do not limit your network just to expats or people from your country. Try to find activities related to your hobbies that will put you in touch with Germans, because integration is not that easy, but it's essential for your success. And be patient with the bureaucracy because there is nothing you can do about it. It's part of working in Germany and living in Germany. And lastly, I believe this is my last slide. From a professional perspective, some tips for you would be to make sure you mix and match from early on. So if you have a diversity of funding bodies, if you apply for different types of funding, if you have different institutions in your CV, you will really stand out. Don't be a tourist at your institution. Uh, Go to your institution, talk to different people, make sure you contact the international office or international affairs department of your institution. Do networking for future opportunities in case you plan to come back if you go back to your country. I had this experience and I feel like I didn't make this networking possibilities happen, and I should have. At the same time, visit other institutions in other states because it could be hard for you to build a career in the first city you land because of the laws that you have in the German academic higher education system. Again, it's a very specific system, so I put a link here for you to learn more about it. And lastly, I believe I would advise you to create a publishing strategy from early on because this is very important here in Germany. So build collaboration and start publishing with recognized journals. Look for Simago high-ranking journals of your field. I also added a link here. And lastly, be proactive, earn your place. You get opportunities when you show that you are inclined to do the work. Try to work on your research visibility, especially through social media, but be careful not to expose too much of your personal life because Germany is a more formal country and those barriers are important here. And look for your scientific diaspora. There are probably other scientists from your country who are here in Germany, and they can give you advice. As I mentioned, I'm part of the Apoena network, and we get a lot of help and we give a lot of help to other people. And lastly, take advantage of the mentoring opportunities that exist here. There are several programs that target mostly women, and they can be very helpful. So I think that's it for me now. I'm probably a little bit over time. So I would like to thank you. And yes, I'll make myself available for questions later.
Thank you, Claudia. I will continue sharing my screen now again. All right. Yeah, thank you so much for that engaging presentation, Claudia. We appreciate your expertise and valuable information and also your personal experiences you have shared with us. There will be time for questions and comments in just a bit, as you just said. We will continue with our first interview with Dr. Natacha Aivodji. Natacha just returned from her research stay in Germany, as you will hear yourself just now. Natacha, I hope you can hear me. You're still muted, Natacha.
Yes, I understand you. I
Okay,
am trying
perfect.
to open my microphone. Do you understand me?
Yes, now I can hear you. So let's go right in. As you've just returned from your research stay in Germany, we'd love to hear about your recent experiences. Could you briefly introduce yourself, Natasha?
Thank you very much, Clarissa. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here to share my experience as an alumni of German founding. My name is Aivodji Natacha. I have a PhD from University of Biochemical. It is a city in Benin. Benin is a small country in the west of Africa. My PhD specialty is in physiology and cellular pharmacology. Since then, I'm postdoctoral fellow in the pharmacology and medicinal plant research unit of the Laboratory of Pharmacology and Improved Traditional Medicine of the University of Abomey-Calavi. Sorry. My research field is the valorization of natural substances has met animal health. I'm also an activist for women scientific leadership. Finally, I'm married and have 3 children. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. So you've just come back from Würzburg in Germany, and your stay was funded by the DFG. How did you connect with the DFG,
Yes.
and how did you learn about this funding opportunity?
Um, I understand about this opportunity by 2 ways. Firstly, I have usually habit to subscribe for a lot of mailing lists in the DFG, DD, a lot of websites for get opportunities. So I understand I have been subscribed it for twice website, and I received the call of application in my mailbox. And I also understand about this opportunity in the WhatsApp group of the Association of Women Scientists from my home university. We have usually habit to share the funding opportunity in this platform. So I understand I have a 2 way to understand about this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. And why did you choose Germany as the location for your research?
It is very interesting question. I chose Germany to carry out my research because Germany offers a lot of financial support and many opportunities for collaboration. This is very already definite advantages for me as a young researcher and at the start of my career from developing country. Furthermore, Germany, it is research infrastructure, it's research, sorry, it's a research infrastructure and culture of scientific rigor. It is recognized as country for many researchers from all over of the world. It is dynamic, innovative, and international environment for a young postdoctoral fellow. It is opportunity to meet a lot of good researchers. So it is good to place to enrich the professional network and get future collaboration. Also,
Okay.
Germany is an excellent place to have good to meet a good supervisor and good how I can say good another researcher and to enrich, as I just say, the professional network.
Okay, thank you. And the last question would be, what advice would you offer to young women considering a career in science?
Um, Thank you very much. As a young woman scientist myself, I will encourage any young girl who wish to pursue this career. Indeed, as a strong advocate of female scientific leadership, I believe it is a career choice that can be incredibly rewarding for young women. Although certain social constraints, especially in African contexts, continue to make obstacles for women to fully deploy their potential in a scientific career. Yet today, gender diversity in science is increasingly favored and encouraged. Her studies have shown that gender diverse research teams are more productive in terms of innovation and quality research. So I say to my young colleagues, go for it, don't give up. Because it is an important thing is to remain resilient, to learn continuously, and to surround yourself with a caring and encouraging network. It is the good combination and to develop a good career in scientists.
Thank you very much, Natasha.
Thank you.
I think we all learned a lot and gained many helpful tips from you. We will also have more time in a few minutes to ask more questions towards your interview. Now let's hear from our final speaker, Aylin Den Moral Morales from Mexico. She will take us on her PhD journey, which she partly experienced in Hamburg, Germany. So,
Thank you.
Aylin, could you briefly introduce yourself and your connection to Germany?
Yes. Hi, Clarissa. Thank you for the invitation and for to participate in this event. I am a PhD student, and right now I'm in the final stages of my PhD here in Mexico in Universidad Autónoma Nacional Autónoma de México. I'm doing a PhD in biochemistry, and my connection to Germany comes from my thesis supervisor. He has a collaborator in Germany, and he was the one who suggested that I should visit Germany to learn about the research group they have in Hamburg. And that's how I started looking for funding. And I managed to get a DAAD funding for a 1 year stay at Hamburg University. In especially, I was working in bioinformatics, and my PhD thesis is about transcriptomic studies, and also I'm looking at protein structures to look for new ways of finding treatments in cancer.
Okay, thank you. And as an international researcher in Hamburg, did you encounter any specific advantages or challenges compared to your experience in Mexico?
Mm, yeah, compared to my experience in Mexico, I think that Hamburg is a more rich environment for researchers. I found my stay there very stimulating. I was in touch with a lot of researchers, and we had opportunities to meet and talk and attend to scientific seminars, which it also happens here in Mexico, but it's not quite as frequent as in Hamburg. So I think that that's one of the main differences that I observed between Hamburg, well, Germany and Mexico. And I think that the scientific environment in German universities I found it more stimulating and more, it's also more challenging, but in the end, it's quite rewarding, I guess.
Okay. And is there any advice you would give to someone planning to pursue research in Germany?
Yes, I think that it's very important to keep in touch with the university you are going, and don't be shy, because I think that at the beginning I suffered a little bit because I was afraid to ask for help, but then I discovered that there are many instances where you can ask for help regarding the paperwork. And other things that you need when you move to Germany. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask and to keep in contact with the international office in your recipient university, and also with the PhD supervisor and other people that they are I guess everyone is open to help you.
Mm, thank you. And is there a specific advice you would give to young women considering a career in science?
Yes, I think that as a young woman, for myself, I started in a career in science. It's very important to be confident about your own abilities and your own capabilities. So my main advice is be confident, trust yourself, and I also like the Natacha's advice about surrounding yourself of a supporting network. I think it's one of the most important things.
Thank you, Aylin. That was a very insightful interview, and I believe some of our audience questions may have already been answered. Um, in case you would like to write to one of our speakers, you can find the email addresses here or wait for the PowerPoint to be uploaded on our homepage within the coming days. However, let's now address some of the most frequently asked questions that are still open. So if you still have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, in the Q&A box, excuse me. And I would kindly ask our speakers to switch on their cameras again. You can be still typing in the Q&A section.
Clarissa, if
Mhm.
that's okay with you, may I post the links that I added to my presentation on the chat? Because that was one question that I saw here. Would that
Yeah,
be okay?
sure. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right. Otherwise, I would be starting with one question I would like to ask to Claudia, maybe. Is there a specific advice you would give to people seeking postdoc positions as you are already experienced?
Yes, I think there are quite a few postdoc positions. Again, the Research in Germany website is a wonderful opportunity if you click on your level. But I would also say that some countries have specific agreements for postdoc positions with Germany. That is the case for Brazil. So the Brazilian government has a specific cooperation agreement between the Alexander von Humboldt Stiftung and the Ministry of Education, and you can apply directly for that. And then you are in competition only with other Brazilians. And there is a certain number of positions that will be given out every year. And I know that other countries have these kinds of agreements as well. You can also look at the job opportunity session of the specific universities, because some of these positions, they are funded by the universities themselves and not funding agencies. So if there is a specific university that you're interested in, you can go to the website and see if there are specific posts for a postdoc at that university in your discipline.
Okay, thank you. I think that's already very helpful to always go to the websites of the universities directly and look by yourself. Another question for Aylin, maybe. Is there any opportunity for early women career researchers to have some funding and visiting positions in Germany?
Yeah, definitely. My stay in Germany was through one of these fundings, which is the binationally supervised DAAD scholarships. So yeah, you don't have to do your full PhD in Germany. You can also have funding for a short visit. Here, the main thing you need is a PhD, well, a supervisor or a German researcher who agrees to host you at the research group. And also, I think the best way to get this kind of funding is to directly write into them. Like everyone is an expert in their field, and I guess you already know who are the researchers you are interested in. So the best way to get one of these fundings is writing to them, write an email, and they will tell you if they have opportunities like this or not. Um, I think most of the times they have, like they, yeah, that's how you can get these fundings.
Thank you, Aylin. There is one more question for Natacha.
Yes.
Did you use any Facebook or Instagram groups which help to get acquainted with other fellow female researchers in Germany, or how did you do it when you were in Germany?
I don't join any Instagram group or Facebook now. For networking, I just use the opportunity that the university hosts give us. We have a network group uh, in the institute that hosts me. We have a different um, international student, PhD, postdoc here. And in another way, we have another network in the accommodation place where I stay. We have another network here to be integrated, to be a social integration. I am. Do you understand my answer? It's okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think it was understandable, but I would also ask the others. Maybe you have a specific name of a Facebook or Instagram group, Aylin or Claudia. Is there maybe a name you could drop?
I would say
no.
that you can go on Facebook and actually look for either females in the specific city, females in Berlin, researchers in Berlin or in Hamburg, and that you will find it more easily. And there are also Facebook groups for mothers in Berlin or specifically groups of women, and you will find that very easily. They all exist.
So maybe there is not a specific name one could give, but there is just if you just look them up and use Facebook like Google, you will probably
Mhm.
find a couple of useful
Maybe.
groups. Yeah. Um, Another question for Claudia. I'm just going to read it out from the chat. Someone is writing, I'm a PhD candidate right now. I find that it's hard for me to introduce myself to other professors, especially at a conference or other academic meetings, to make a personal connection. Do you have any advice on how to express myself better or how to make career connection efficiently from the perspective of a professor or group leader?
Well, I understand this point of view. We are always shy and it's a little embarrassing to introduce yourselves to someone else. But especially during conferences or this academic meetings, people are happy to have other people to talk to. And if you come up to a professor or a more senior researcher, if you mention that you know their work, some sort of publication, they will be happy to talk to you and they will be happy that they are not just standing there awkwardly. And I know it can be a little bit hard, but it is important to do this kind of networking. It does open a lot of doors. So I would say be more confident, don't be embarrassed, and go for it. And also follow the people that you think may be important or relevant in your discipline online on social media, especially on LinkedIn.
Thank you. I think that resonates with what Aylin was saying about that you just have to be confident um, and are, yeah, confident about your values and your strengths. Um, there is another question maybe for Aylin. Are there funding options for PhD specifically for women in Germany?
I don't know if it's specifically for women. There are tons of options for PhD funding in Germany. I think one of the main ones is the DAAD. But yeah, I don't know if there is a scholarship specifically for women. What I know is that there is comparing to Mexico, opportunities for women is more are let me think about it. There are more opportunities for women in doing a PhD in Germany. Like the financial support is stronger. In Germany, or at least the DAAD allows you to travel, to move to Germany with your entire family. If you have kids, if you have a partner, and also they support you if you get pregnant or if you want to have a baby. You are fully supported by the funding, and as far as I understand, that applies to any institute you go, regarding or independently of the funding you get.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Regarding all the different funding options, we will put a link to our website as well, so you find all the different funding opportunities which exist in Germany. So you can just have a look on our website as well after the webinar is over. Yeah, we will provide you with all the necessary links at the end. One more question to Natacha. Um, you were talking about your DFG funding. Someone in the chat was also asking, how exactly did you get the DFG funding? Could you maybe elaborate on that a bit?
Clarissa, I suspect that Natacha is not online. So maybe we lost her due to the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
also can't
maybe we
hear
can.
her. We will just skip to another question then. There is still so many questions. I will just go to the next question to Claudia. You were mentioning the German bureaucracy. I know by now so many people know about the German bureaucracy. Could you maybe elaborate a bit on that, what you mean by it, or what is frustrating about it, so that people who are aiming to come to Germany get a bit in the picture?
Sure. It is frustrating, but it shouldn't prevent you from actually coming to Germany. What I mean is we do have a lot of paperwork, literally paperwork. From the moment you arrive, related to your visa and the types of forms that you have to fill, to forms that you have to fill when you do events at the university. So you do encounter a lot of that. And the language, even if you speak German, it could be a little bit hard to understand. And for some countries where you can book things very easily digitally online, if you're used to that, it can be a little bit frustrating, which is why you should get in touch with people who have been in this position before and get some advice if you're having a hard time figuring out what you have to do. Germany is a very formal country. There are quite a few step-by-step procedures that you have to follow to get certain things, but you are able to do it. We manage it, but you do have to be a little bit patient. So that's what I mean. It's actually a lot of real paper.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Is there maybe something specific you would like to point out when it comes to the bureaucracy of unis, or is it just the same, or is there something more specific about it?
I think that there is also some bureaucracy and delays in paperwork regarding contracts. And sometimes when you do an event, you have to prove your expenditures in several different ways. So you should inform yourself beforehand on what you need to deliver so that you are prepared to have all of the necessary forms, all of the necessary paperwork. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's quite important to point out that you're never too early in Germany. So when you are aiming to sign a contract or aiming to get funding in Germany, it's always best to start very early with the application process, because maybe there is a little delay when it comes to the replying. I just saw that Natacha came back. Natacha, can you hear us? Yeah, probably not. It's not the case yet. So, Aylin, there is another question for you. In the chat, someone is writing, I'm currently looking for host. Can you please suggest how to approach and host first, how the cover letter should be done, and do you have any suggestion for that?
I think the best way to find a host in a German institution is to just write to them. I also understand that it's a little bit scary to write an email just to a professor, but most of them like it. Like they like to receive an email saying, "Hi, hello, I'm from this country or from this university, and I'm looking for a research opportunity area in your field." I guess it also helps if you tell them a little bit about your research and why you are interested in their group. And you are going to be rejected maybe. Everyone has been, so no, nothing, there is no problem. Like, I think the most important thing is just to start approaching a potential host, and that's how you can get a one opportunity.
Thank you. Natacha, can you hear us now? I'm just trying again. You're still muted. Maybe that's part of the problem.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Perfect. So I have a question for you regarding being a mother in science. You mentioned that you have 3 children. How did you manage your organization of the family and your research in Germany?
It is a good question. Um, as a mother of three young children, I manage my travel in Germany with the help of my family. As I say, for for a woman in science, it is very important to surround with a good person, particularly the husband. If your husband is not okay to help you with a family issue, it was very difficult to be very free to deploy your potential to be a good researcher. For me, my husband accepted to be mother and father during my stay in the German, and my family, my sister, the grandfather, a lot of person in my family help in order to help me to be free to carry out my research in German, and they take care for my children, and particularly about my staying. I choose the dates, the period of my staying, um, in the same time of the vacation with for my children. So during my staying, my children are in vacation. It was very simple to manage the children during the vacation. So I choose the date, the period of my travel during the vacation time of my children. But the first thing is to be confident and surround with a good person, particularly the husband, to be free to have a good time to work as a scientist.
Yeah,
Okay?
thank you, Natasha. Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very interesting perspective as you are a mother as well. And yeah, academia is still full of men, and we also need mothers because they have a different perspective on research as well. So it's great having you here with us. Um, One more question to Claudia. Someone was asking that you also had funding from Alexander von Humboldt, and he or she was asking about the selection criterias and when you knew about the results after the selecting meeting.
Hey, so regarding the selection criteria, that will depend on the call that you are applying for. So the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, as other agencies like the DAD, the DFG, they have different calls, and they will tell you in the call what is the criteria, what you have to send them. Usually, you need already a host. So that is one of the other things that I'm looking at the questions here, and I think this is a common doubt. You should have a host already that is willing to accept you. And one of the best ways to approach the host is send an email, a short email, a very formal email with a CV that should be no more than 2 pages long, and a brief research draft, a draft of the project that you would like to do. Again, no more than 5 pages. And you tell this person why you are a good fit for that institution, and maybe mention some of the relevant prizes, awards, publications, or relevant things that you've done in your trajectory. So usually you have to fulfill some criteria. Maybe some calls require teaching, some calls require that you have your PhD within a certain amount of years, or maybe you need to be over a certain amount of years. So that really depends. But as Clarissa mentioned previously, you need to do that quite early. It takes a lot of time for you to get evaluated and to get this answer back. For the Alexander von Humboldt Stiftung, it took about a year. So you cannot just send the application and expect to come to Germany within 2 or 3 months. That doesn't happen.
Thank you, Claudia, for that humbling reality check. But it's very important to know that in advance and plan early.
That goes for everywhere, not just Germany,
Yeah,
usually.
yeah, and that's very true as well, for sure. We have so many specific questions. So when it comes to specific disciplines and how to get funding for that specific discipline, we won't be able to answer all the very narrow defined questions. So we will answer to the more general ones, but at the end we will share helpful links, which will help you even with the more specific questions. There's one more question for Aylin. Um, which cities do you recommend for the researchers to focus in when it comes to coming to Germany?
I guess that's a good thing about Germany, that I don't think there is a specific city you need to go. In my experience, all around the different cities in Germany, there are different research groups, and all of them have different opportunities. So the best city to be is the one that has the group you are interested in. And so, well, there are many differences between the cities in Germany. I stay in the north in Hamburg. I can tell you it's a very fun city to stay, but also yeah, other cities have other things and other researchers, other groups, and there is no good and bad. So yeah, the best one is the one you like, and the one that has the supervisor you are comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that it's of course also related to where you find a PhD position and where you find a supervisor. Um, and yeah, your personal taste and what is important to you when it comes to work-life balance, because different cities offer different opportunities when it comes to your free time. There's one more question for Aylin, actually. A person is asking, as far as he or she understood, the research was conducted in English. How challenging is it to find PhD or postdoc positions without speaking German, in, for example, social sciences or humanities? Do you know something about this?
Social sciences and humanities, I don't know. Maybe Claudia knows better. And in my area, that it's biochemistry and biological
Yeah.
research, is quite common to have PhD students that don't speak German. Like not well. We through the DAAD we learn basic German, where I was able to learn a some a little bit like to everyday communication, but the most frequent thing is that foreign PhD students conduct the research in English, and yeah, so there is no problem.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Claudia, could you say something about your discipline?
Yes, there are many opportunities in English, but depending on the funder and the funding agency, they might require you to have a certain level of German for the social sciences, because they assume you're going to do qualitative research, you need to do interviews, you need to read policy. So the Alexander von Humboldt actually asks for a B2, C1, C1. I'm getting my languages mixed up. Of German, so you do need German to be able to apply, but that again varies depending on the funding agency, your host, your discipline.
Okay, yeah, thank you. One last question for Natasha. Um, Someone wrote, I'm looking to start my career in forensic science in Germany and currently looking for funded PhD positions. Any tips from your side?
Thank you very much for your question. The tips that I can share with you is to subscribe on the lot of newsletter on the website, has a research in German, the DAD website twice. If you have subscribed for a lot of newsletter, you can have opportunity to receive directly in your mailbox the different call of application. And if you apply for different call of application, you have many luck to have one opportunity which can choose you. You can get, if you, how I can say, sorry for my English, I am
No, go
French
ahead.
native speaker. So, and how I can say, if you apply for many different opportunity, you have much luck to get one. So to finish, you need to subscribe for different website, and you will have opportunity to receive a lot of call of application.
Yeah. Thank you, Natasha. I think upon that point, you also mentioned during your interview, I think that's very good to subscribe to several newsletters and email lists. Yeah, I'm going to quickly share my screen again because we need to keep going. Yeah, so unfortunately, due to the time constraints, we have to conclude here. There's still open questions, but don't worry, there will be more events like this in the future. Until then, there are other sources of information, like our Research in Germany homepage, or you can subscribe to our newsletter, and of course, our social media channels. And here you can find the according QR codes for easy access. And before we conclude, we would like to ask you to take a moment to fill out our survey so we can incorporate your feedback into future events. But before we start with the survey, we would like to thank everyone for joining us today. A special thank you to our speakers for their inspiring and insightful presentations and interviews. Your expertise and perspectives have made this event truly valuable. And to our audience, we appreciate your active participation and thoughtful questions. Your engagement is what makes the event so impactful. So now let's jump right into the survey and see live your feedback of the questions. We won't share all questions results as this would exceed the time. Please fill out the first questions, and for the other questions, take as much time as you need. We will evaluate them carefully after a session. When done, feel free to just leave. So I will just skip to the presentation of the Mentimeter.
Maybe Clarissa, if I can jump in and add something.
Yeah, sure.
I'm Inji from the Research in Germany team. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick, but I hope you can hear me well. Just for you as information, we have multiple tools or new tools on our homepage where you can find your path. For example, for PhD, we have a new tool called Pathfinder, where you can add all your specific details or information or like a multiple choice way. And then at the end, you'll get a very beautiful kind of a checklist. So maybe start there if you're still having many questions. And I will also share multiple links where you can add or where you can find more answers, because again, we're very sorry we don't have so much time, but do your research, and by the latest during our next event, we can maybe you'll be furthermore advanced when it comes to doing your research in Germany.
Thank you so much, Inji. That's a very important point. We tend to forget marketing our own projects, but this is a very good one. Yeah, we share the screen with the slide with the QR codes for the newsletter and Instagram channel, LinkedIn channel again at the end. So if you would take a minute to reply to the survey, that would help. We can see that there are already people replying. So just take as much time as you need to reply. And again, of course, we are sorry that we couldn't reply to all questions, but our website is actually very rich in information. So just go on our Research in Germany homepage and take some time to really have a deeper look on all the subpages, because there's very valuable and actually also specific information. Of course, nice that you learned new things. Yeah, it's great to see how you guys are answering. The labs, of course, as mentioned from Natasha, yeah, that's great to see. Networking and collaboration. as I think the three ladies of you mentioned actually. Yeah, I think we touched upon that point as well, bureaucracy. But as Claudia was saying, don't hesitate and let yourself be stopped by the bureaucracy. There is a way through it. And thank you so much for this feedback, because there will be definitely more of those events. And if you subscribe to our newsletter, for example, or follow us on our social media channels, you won't miss the upcoming events. And we will, of course, incorporate your feedback. So thank you so much. Yeah, so let me come back to this slide in order for you to be able and check all our social media channels. So just take all the time you need to scan the QR codes. And if you didn't have sufficient time to answer the survey, you can still keep going after you said goodbye to everyone. Yeah, so I think at this point, I'm just going to say thank you again for everyone participating and attending this so insightful and interesting webinar. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. So have a great time and evening and morning and day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.